nothing will happen. But in their minds, you have to create a situation where if they take another step, people will see what it is they're doing. And this is what I'm here to tell you today, what I want you to do. Now, all of you are here, to one degree or another. You're saying they won't get my gun, they'll take my gun out of my cold dead hands and things like that. You're here fighting for your rights to land, your rights to own a house, your rights to keep your money you earn. You're here fighting about all these things. And you're looking for a way to break through. How can we get through to the American people and get them to understand and what we're talking about? How? Well, I'm going to tell you how, and I want you to do it. This may be a little bit distasteful because it is not in your, I say, in your way of thinking, so to speak, even though you recognize it right away. Consider, 60 Minutes did a show a few weeks ago, and it was on the Environmental Protection Agency guys going around and kicking a guy's door in. The EPA guys were armed with guns and things, and they went in with a so-called warrant and terrorized somebody. Now, I'm not a businessman, but I knew what EPA was doing. A friend of mine had the Food and Drug Administration come into his place. They were armed. Going to raid him for producing vitamins. Yeah, well, yeah, that's his sister sitting right over there. Noelle, the girl was up here before. Back in the 1970s, the fight at that time was about OSHA. You might recall the Occupational Safety and Health Agency going around and terrorizing people. Well, my friends, you might have realized it, but all of those things are the same. If you try to fight one of them, you lose. Now, to indicate what we have to do, and I'll indicate what we have to do in a minute, I need to tell you a story about what happened in the 1970s when I got involved in a fight to stop the Occupational Safety and Health Administration from kicking down people's doors and doing things. You know that all of the agencies, we'll get your tape about this, about the agencies. All of the agencies in Washington, D.C., from ATF to IRS to FDA, all of them have legislative, executive, and judicial powers combined in the agencies. That which the Founding Fathers separated, these men have recombined, all of them. Well, what happened was that I went to a lawyer, and I said, well, how do we stop this? He said, well, you know, if you violate OSHA's regulations or EPA regulations or whatever agency was, they will take you and charge you with something, and then they will take you before an administrative court. The administrative court you're most familiar with is a so-called tax court. Sure. And in that administrative court, they then judge you according to your regulations, to their regulations. You're not allowed to use the Constitution. You have no defense. Did you violate their regulations? They wrote the regulations themselves. They are enforcing the regulations, and if you violate the regulations, they're sitting as judges. The legislative, executive, and judicial powers have been recombined in the agencies. Well, I knew this, and I said, well, how do you get around it? He said, well, once you go to the administrative court, if you try to appeal to the federal courts pretend that you've already had a trial by jury. The federal courts are pretending that the trial by this kangaroo court is a trial by jury, so they turn down your appeals. I said, well, there must be a way to get around that. He said, well, there is. What you have to do is you have to waive your right to trial by jury, and if you waive your right to trial by jury, and they find you guilty of something and you appeal,